You know someone like this. Maybe it's you. Everyone around them is posting, sharing, performing, and they just don't. They're on social media. They scroll. They see everything. But their profile? Nearly empty. Their story? Always blank. And here's what's strange. They're usually the most interesting people in the room. So what's actually going on inside someone who chooses to stay invisible in the loudest era in human history? Think about the last time something beautiful happened to you. A meal that looked incredible. A view that stopped you mid-breath. A moment of real, unscripted joy. What was your first instinct? For most people, and be honest, it was to reach for the phone. Frame it. Caption it. Share it. Now imagine someone who doesn't do that. Someone who just stays inside the moment. Doesn't pull out the phone. Doesn't post the sunset. Doesn't announce the milestone. People around them get confused. Is everything okay with them? Are they depressed? Do they think they're too good for this? But here's what nobody asks. The more interesting question: what if they just figured something out that the rest of us haven't? Because not posting isn't absence. In a lot of cases, it's the most deliberate choice a person can make. Here's the psychology most people never hear about. Social media was engineered, intentionally, deliberately, to exploit a very specific human need. The need for social approval. Every time you post something and a notification comes back, a like, a comment, a heart, your brain releases dopamine. The same chemical triggered by food, sex, and gambling. The same mechanism behind addiction. And here's the insidious part. It's not the post itself that becomes addictive. It's the anticipation of the reaction. You start editing your life. Not for yourself, but for the response. You stop asking, "Did I enjoy that?" and start asking, "Will this perform well?" Think of it like this. Imagine a musician who starts playing for the crowd instead of for the music. At first it feels the same. But slowly, without realizing it, they stop playing what's true and start playing what gets applause. The art changes. And eventually, something hollow takes its place. That's what social media does to self-expression over time. Now imagine the person who notices this happening and stops. They're not antisocial. They're not broken. They've just recognized the mechanism, and they've decided it doesn't speak for them. Psychologists call this an internal locus of control. The belief that your worth comes from within, not from what other people reflect back at you. People who score high on this trait are significantly less vulnerable to social comparison, digital anxiety, and the kind of slow identity drift that happens when you perform yourself for long enough that you forget who you actually are. Here's the part that might genuinely surprise you. There's a concept in psychology called psychological ownership. It describes the deep sense that something, a memory, a feeling, an experience, is yours. Fundamentally, completely yours. And research suggests that the moment you share something publicly, that ownership quietly erodes. It becomes open to interpretation, to judgment, to someone scrolling past it in 3 seconds and deciding what it means. The moment is no longer contained in you. It's floating out there, being processed by strangers, shaped by their projections. So when someone chooses not to post, they may be doing something we rarely give them credit for. They're protecting the integrity of their own inner life. And here's the twist most people completely miss. It's not that they have less to say. Usually it's the opposite. The people who don't post are frequently the ones sitting with the most complex inner landscapes. Deep thinkers, intense feelers, careful observers. They're not quiet because they're empty. They're quiet because they understand that not every truth survives going public. Not every wound should be turned into content. Not every joy can survive being performed. They've learned what most of us are still figuring out. Some things lose something the moment they're shared. If this is you, if you're someone who rarely posts, who watches from the edges, who keeps their real life off the feed. I want to say something directly. There's nothing wrong with you. In fact, a lot of what looks like withdrawal from the outside is actually something else entirely on the inside. It might be exhaustion. You tried the performance, you felt the drain, and you quietly stepped off the stage. That's not failure. That's self-awareness. It might be grief. Somewhere along the way, the space stopped feeling like connection and started feeling like exposure. And you chose to protect yourself. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Or it might simply be that you found something better on the other side of the noise. A version of your life that belongs entirely to you. One that doesn't require an audience to be real. We've been taught to believe that if you didn't post it, it didn't happen. But think about the most defining moments of your life. The ones that actually changed you. Were those the ones with the most likes? Or were they the ones nobody ever saw? The breakdowns. The private victories. The 3 a.m. realizations. The conversations that restructured something inside you. Those didn't make the feed. And they shaped you more than anything that did. Visibility and significance are not the same thing. We just got confused and started treating them like they were. So what do you actually do with any of this? You don't have to delete your accounts. You don't have to make some grand announcement about going offline. This isn't that kind of advice. But here are 2 small mental shifts that change everything. First, start asking a different question before you post. Not, will this do well? Not, what will people think? Instead, ask, am I sharing this because it feels true, or because I need something back from it? That one question will tell you everything. And the more you ask it, the more clearly you'll start to see the difference between expression and performance, and which one you've been doing. Second, practice having experiences that belong only to you, deliberately, intentionally. Take a walk without your phone. Have a meal without photographing it. Feel something, really feel it, without immediately reaching for language to package it. Not forever. Not as some rigid discipline. Just often enough to remember what it feels like to exist without an audience. Because there is a version of yourself that lives underneath all the performing. Quieter. Less polished. More real. And that version of you doesn't need the internet to confirm it's worth something. We live in a world that rewards visibility. That equates noise with progress. That treats silence as something to fill. But the people who don't post, the truly, quietly invisible ones, they've found something on the other side of that noise. They've found that your worth doesn't disappear when nobody's watching, that you don't have to explain yourself to be real, that some of the most deeply alive people you'll ever meet have almost nothing on their profile. The next time you see someone who never posts, don't assume they're struggling. Don't assume they're hiding. Don't feel sorry for them. Consider the possibility that they just found their way back to something the rest of us are still searching for. A life that's fully theirs. Unfiltered. Unbroadcasted. Unapologetically real. And maybe the bravest thing you can do in an age designed to keep you performing is to simply stop.